proof of that. And I did have a mentor. I still have a mentor, the former owner of the farm that I bought and own now. So he has obviously played a critical role. And I mean, why would I not tap into the knowledge of a person that's been in the industry for 40 years? He's been producing in that area for 40 years. So who better else is going to give me the opportunity of the skill? And that by no means does that mean, we're coming into the industry completely blank. It's just that we've never had the opportunity to run an operation that is commercial, and mentoring is a critical thing, and it's bearing the fruits.
Yeah. We're both farmers, and I suppose when you started, like you said, you started with a mentor, and now you're mentoring others. How are you finding that relationship between having to, manage your farm operations on a daily basis? And we both know how hectic that is. I mean, right now, it's like 8:10, and you're in the car. I suppose you're out in the field and you're still working. So how are you able to find or juggle that, your full-on 9-to-5 operations at the farm, your business rather, as well as mentoring other individuals who are starting out in the industry? Some of them maybe just don't have land or resources. How are you just able to really dedicate your time to individuals that are seeking help at this stage?
No, thanks, Molly. I think first and foremost, my fortunate position is that, with the family operation, as much as, I may be the MD of all the operation, but I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive family. My mom is on the farm. My brother's on the farm. My sister's on the farm. So everyone's got key responsibilities. So that gives me enough time to go and share the skill to others. And it should be a skill to many going forward, Mbali, because I really do believe that, if we are to really succeed at this, and this is how, the more experienced farmers have done it, you've got generational wealth. It's not an impossible thing to do, but it's a matter of making sure that within the household, everyone is singing from the same hymn book. And that's the advantage that I've had at the moment with regards to my operation. So ultimately, that has given me enough time on my plate, to say, how can I transfer the skill to other farmers? And that's obviously prompted the work that I do under Ukana Farmer Development. And furthermore to that is that it's not only me that does the mentoring. I've got a team around me of 36 young agricultural graduates that have been groomed, that I groomed some of them when I was still at Grain SA, and then we transferred ourselves to Ukana Farmer Development. So there's a team that is skilled to transfer the skill to obviously the farmers that we are assisting within our program. And obviously we're looking at assisting grain. It's only because I've got a strong family system, but it's also at the fact that, the team that I work with within our development work is also fairly staunch in this regard.
Wow. So let's talk about Ukana Farmer Development. All right. What type of individuals are you mentoring? Should they already be producing, or are they supposed to be in a position where they're just starting to enter into the industry? And are you only mentoring grain aspirant farmers, or are you opening it up to other commodities?
No, sure. I think first and foremost, Ukana Farmer Development, as I had alluded to, is structured in the sense where we're a group of young agricultural graduates that one day, decided to say that, the development work that we've been doing as employees, we can do as individuals who own the entity. So that was the first major step. We then went further to say, who is our target market, which is predominantly grain farmers? You've got about a 70 to 80% status that says most of these guys are producing maize in the Eastern Cape. To get their yields from 2 to 3 tons to 6 tons to 8 tons, given the potential of the various areas, is where we're very strong as a team. So what we're saying as Ukana Farmer Development is that you don't need to have 2,000 hectares to be considered. You can have half a hectare. Our aim when we're assisting farmers, which I'll allude to how, is to purely increase production per hectare for the farmer, therefore allowing him or her to perhaps gain more household income from the trade of grain. And that's our target. So we're not after hectares necessarily. We're after a per ton model, which is where we're achieving the commercialization status of farmers. So you don't have to be 1,000 hectare landowner. You don't you can have or not have a title deed. You can be on a communal area. You can be in a garden. We specifically focus on grain farmers because that is our point of departure as an organization. However, we've opened it up to assisting veggie farmers, in terms of acquiring quality production inputs. And that's the main aim of our entity. Strong mentoring, strong skills transfer, access to quality production inputs, right, in terms of a per hectare basis. And obviously, there's a contribution per hectare that you have to have as a farmer, which is subsidized from what you would have paid for a bag of fertilizer commercially if you had to go buy it for yourself. So our model is really centered around assisting the farmer to kick on and not entirely giving him a holistic grant that he or she can say, Vele, it's an entity and I won't take responsibility. So we're really farmer based, but automatically saying, you have to have the passion. That's important. It's not our grain that we're producing, it's yours. So your contribution per hectare is teaching you that your input needs to make sure that your output pays for the input as well as leaves you with some change to make sure that you carry on as a producer. So the structure of the Eastern Cape is that you've got vast land in terms of land availability. We've got about 400,000 hectares of arable land that's constituting of communal as well as privately owned land. So we are a province that's got great potential. And that's what we're trying to tap into as Ukana Farmer Development.
Wow. So you mentioned skills and knowledge transfer, getting the production output, which is of critical importance. Are you linking these farmers to markets? I suppose what happens when the grain needs to be harvested? For example, you mentioned that you're not targeting thousands of hectares, but farmer X could be producing on 5 hectares, farmer Y could be producing on 2 or 3. How are they able to sell their grain? Do they sell to nearby communities, or do you collectively harvest that and send it to the silo and obviously give the farmer their own portion? So do they have to worry about markets in essence?
You see, because we're doing a very strong orientated mentoring program around skills transfer. So the farmer needs to understand how the basic market works, SAFEX and trading. But you would find that because you've got different categories of farmers under the mentoring program we have, you've got 0 to 5 hectares, maybe that's a subsistence guy. You've got 5 to 35 or 100 hectares, that's a smallholder guy. 100 hectares or more, or 50 hectares or more for that matter, that's a commercial guy. But the most important thing is to say, how do we make sure that he or she understands how the market functions? Then that's the skill. That's the first skill in terms of training with regards to the mentor visits. The second skill is to say, if he or she has got 200 bags of maize, option 1 is that he or she can sell in the community. They normally fetch better prices per bag if they sell in what we call the informal market. Otherwise, the lesson is obviously SAFEX, ton, or a price per ton. And if farmers collectively as a group of maybe 25 or an individual farmer with 200 hectares is wanting to sell 2,000 bags, we then facilitate that operation with regards to market, okay, as well as with regards to the remuneration thereof. And so the farmer starts to understand how the marketing system works of grain. It's not an overnight exercise because unfortunately for now, a lot of the guys that are in our program are elderly, but predominantly women. We've got about a 60 to 70% presence of women in our program. So it automatically shows the interest and the buy-in when you give the opportunity. So market is something that they worry about because it's something that we teach them. And it's important that they get that understanding for them to be able to trade. But we never enforce the formal marketing trade because they've obviously got marketing structures, because you've got livestock farmers in there, from pigs to chickens within the community. So maize also moves from there for them. So that's how we structure our marketing transfer of skill.
And I want to find out, your development program is specifically based in the Eastern Cape. Is that correct?
For now, yeah. The whole intention is to expand, but obviously as an NPO, you need funding. And this is what I'm appealing to various investors on platforms that I get the opportunity to talk is, we are the jockey that is riding the horse in the right direction, I care to think. And there's many others doing various development work in the province. But I think from a grand perspective, we've got something going. And this is what enhances us to say, there's a very big buy-in from KZN. There's a very big buy-in from Limpopo province as well. It's your poorer provinces that have got the potential for grain, but also we just don't want to go to an area or expand into a province or an area where we know that grain potential is low. You know what I mean? That's why we give the opportunity for farmers to say, well, in this area, we used to do cabbages. And then we try and link those farmers to, programs in various areas where they can get vegetable assistance. So we're very much orientated to what was happening in that area, what experience do farmers have, and what is it that we're going to have to come in and tweak for them to be able to produce the tonnages that the potential area has. So those are areas of expansion with regards to growth. KZN, Limpopo, and bits of Mpumalanga for now.
So I'm going to ask you a question directed in twofold. So firstly, for the farmer, right? I'm a farmer as well, and I constantly get inundated with requests from individuals wanting to do crop farming, let me say specifically vegetable farming, and they want to enter into the industry. They have no knowledge, resources, skills, markets, basically asking me to mentor them. And for other farmers that are listening who have similar requests, whether they livestock, fruit, poultry, whatever the case might be, on even grain, but not specifically in Eastern Cape, what can we do as farmers to mentor others, considering the fact that we're still running commercial or just enterprises at the end of the day? And you and I know how hectic a day in the life of a farmer can be. So what are some tools or advices that you could give to farmers like myself to start mentoring individuals?
I think the first and foremost is to say, bite what you can chew. There's many people who want to flood the market of agriculture, which is important because we've got the land maybe as a country, various areas. And I'll stick to Eastern Cape as an example. There's a lot of guys wanting to come, and you've got 40% unemployment, youth unemployment in the province. We've got big problems. So land is the next best question. Agriculture is the next best question as well as an answer. So for me, it's a matter of starting with a number that you can successfully manage. That's critical. Don't try and mentor 100 farmers if you don't even have capacity for 5. Rather find yourself a situation where if I can teach a guy next door or 3 farmers within my access road as a commercial farmer, I've done my job. Because that then will influence the fact that those 3, good-hearted, so we pray, will be in a position of experiencing, or should I say, mentoring others. So the growth curve for me in Bali is to say, do what you can and do it well. Don't go and over chew or overbite, if there's such English, to find yourself, 100 farmers. And this is where failure comes in, unfortunately. We've got various programs as a country, mentoring programs, training programs, workshops, but tie that up with the fact that if I take Umbali from her farm, mentor her on her farm, and ensure that what I'm talking to her in theory, she practices on the ground and gets the results for her to see growth as an individual. That takes time. And that's why agriculture is not a quick win. Unfortunately, for you to get your access, or gains at least, you will find yourself having to, knock your head year 1, knock your head year 2, and then it's only then when you start seeing results in the game. It's a very patient industry. You require patience. It needs a lot of investment. But I say, if you crack the nod with regards to 2 or 3 along your farm or next to you, you've done your contribution with the hope that, with angelic forces, they will pass on the good message.
As we wrap up this farmer side, how have you dealt with individuals that have fallen off your mentorship program? I mean, I went to go visit a friend in Tarleton, which is in the west of Johannesburg, and last year he came with 2 individuals that he was mentoring on my farm. And now when I went to go see him about last week, I was like, oh, where's the one individual that you used to mentor? And he's like, oh, he planted and then decided, in the midst of the operation that I can't do this, I'm out. you know. And I could see that my friend was just discouraged because he has given so much time and energy mentoring individuals, and you can't guarantee, you know, if a person will stay long. So what advice would you give to the farmers who may be listening to you and be like, Yasin, Sinelizwi, I've done this so many times, but, you know, people see agriculture from the papers and think, oh, this is great. I want to do this. I've got green fingers. I love cattle. I love animals, whatever the case is. I want to pursue this. And then once they go in the industry and actually do the actual farming, they figure out that, nah, this is for me, because it's just too much hard work and they don't have the patience. So what advice would you give to those farmers who have given all the efforts and energies and time to individuals, but, you know, the individuals have just fallen off?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mali. I think first and foremost, you know, the game of, you know, stretching out your hand and mentoring farmers is a risk. You will find that you're not going to get 100% turnout, or should I say success rate, at least in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years maybe of you doing it. So it's a risk that you take as an individual farmer. It all lies in the passion. You know, I'm one who thinks, you know, I could have easily turned around, you know, built a massive empire, you know, kept my mouth shut and just got rich by myself, you know. Yeah. So what would that have done for me, given the fact that I've had the exposure and the experience of the you know, the negative situation we have as a province with regards to poverty, unemployment, you know, and the lack of just good household income that is stable. I was exposed to that, which maybe, you know, enhanced my hunger to develop others. But ultimately, for me, it's a situation of saying, believe the fact that it's not going to be success first round. The second thing is that not everyone, Bali, is going to be a farmer, let alone a commercial farmer. That is just the system. Not everyone is going to do it. Yes, we may tamper with it. You know, I mean, I could easily go, just because I think I can cook, put up a restaurant in the middle of nowhere, you know, and find myself trying to cook. But it's not really in me. So passion, there's some things that you can't teach. You simply can't teach it. And passion is one of them, in my opinion. So for me, it's a matter of the right individual will rise. The person who's going to leave you halfway will quickly see themselves, you know, off the equation, because that is just the harshness of the industry. You know, if you're not prepared to bleed, because you are going to bleed year 1, you are going to bleed year 2. Hell, you can have 3 seasons where there's no rain, and you've invested millions into your operation. You know, so we won't be the first people to have hardships with regards to the industry. But if you really live agriculture, and this is why I always find myself saying, you know, I could have easily gone to bed at 7 o'clock this evening, but who is going to do what needs to be done at 10 o'clock or until 11 o'clock this evening? So the commitment and the passion is something that you can't teach. So allow me to say that you won't get 100% success rate, but sure as hell, if you just have 2 or 3 individuals that take it and run, you must be proud of yourself as a mentor.
Oh, that's so reassuring. And I actually wrote a column on Farmers Weekly this week, which I think is out. And I wrote actually about mentoring. And I said that as much as passion is a good thing to have, it's not the be all and end all. You have to have skin in the game, the patience. You have to have specific goals, and just know that you have to be in it for the long haul, because people reach out to farmers and say, I've got the passion for farming. I've got the green fingers. But I think people just don't understand the hard work behind the scenes that actually go into farming. But what advice then rather would you then give to individuals who are approaching farmers and wanting some mentorship guidance?
First of all, be willing to learn extensively. You know, I'll use myself as an example. I had a mentor. I was a laborer kind of an individual. You know, when I got to his farm, ever since 2008, I've known him. So I literally worked as if I was a laborer from 6 to 6, you know, every day, because I was willing to learn. I needed to understand the hardship of work before I can find myself saying, okay, this belongs to me. I needed to be confident that I could withstand the hardships of work. To feed cattle in 3 or 2 meter deep snow is not something that everyone can do. So first things first is that you must be willing to learn. You must be willing to make the mistake, and your mentor must be in a position to allow you to make the mistake. So you aren't going to know everything, right? And the third thing that I would like to establish is that over and above that, if you don't take time to understand what you did in that day, if you were in the potato shed sorting potatoes, or you were perhaps counting the potato seed in the fridge, why mondial? Why is this farmer doing a mondial variety in this area? Why is he doing a Sifra variety in this area? Why is this farmer having a dipping system with his cattle, in this particular way? Why is the grain farmer planting at such a population? So for me, it's a situation of how much more effort are you willing to put in over and above what you've been exposed to in the day? And for me, Mbali, those are the 3 things I think, individuals having the opportunity to get mentors, you must really humble yourself and your mind. You've come from a university, you've never run a farm, right? The financial implications of running a farm, you don't even have the slightest of clue how expensive it can get. So you must be a sponge. You must be a sponge, and you must really take an hour or 2 every day that you've come back from the field, no matter how tired you are. Why is he doing this? Why? In that way, you will find yourself, empowering the idea to say, right, now that I know, how do I link it to the next activity for the next day? And I think for me, that is the power of mentoring. But ultimately as well, Mbali, the mentor must be willing to teach, right? So we can talk until we blue in the face with regards to, what the importance of mentoring and how to approach. But if mentors or experienced farmers are also just doing a talk show about developing new entrants into the game, then we've got a real problem in our country. And I think, for me, from my experience, a lot of the guys that I've come to with 40 years of experience and running 2,000-3,000 hectares of grain operation, guys are willing to teach.
Absolutely.
But I think us as candidates, we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I will withstand anything that I will go and experience on that farm, no matter how high, no matter how low, and I will do what is expected of me as a mentee to make sure that we are in a position of developing as an individual. For me, those are the 3 or 4, Mbali, if we are to achieve a transformation in the industry, but also develop and mentor farmers that can sustain the industry. And this is the generational wealth I'm talking about. It's all good and well to go get mentored for 4, 5, 6 years. But if you're going to find yourself in a position of just joining the industry and, because most of these farmers are getting old, if not retiring or if not packing up and leaving, who's next? But the who's next must be the right jockeys for the correct horses.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I think it's something that we don't also openly discuss in the industry, the fact that, the older generation of farmers, those who've been farming for decades, are really open to giving out information. It's about the candidate in terms of how serious are you, because you've given a brief background of your story, and it definitely hits home because I'm also a product of that mentorship from very established commercial farmers. Thank you for that. Sinelizwi, I just want to close off our podcast today, or our conversation today, basically wanting to find out from you, what advice would you give to graduates who want to enter into the agriculture industry? And let's talk about the Eastern Cape as a landscape. You mentioned, Guti, there's high unemployment rate. Some graduates could be the first graduates or the first individuals in their households that have been to university. And there's so many expectations from a family once a person has graduated to obviously start going to work and getting some income to support the family. So what advice would you give to those graduates who really have a passion for agriculture, but have just heard you today and say, agriculture is a long-term game. You have to be a mentee for many years. It's patience. It requires capital and all of that stuff. Whilst, on the other end, they've got this force of having to provide for their family. So what would you say to that young person that's listening to you today and wants to pursue farming, wants to be a farmer one day, grain farmer or vegetable farmer, whatever his or her appetite is, but really is struggling because they've got the pressures from home to really bring in the bacon, rather?
No, thanks, Mbali. I think, yeah, it's a very touchy question, and it's because, you know, it hits home to some degree with regards to, you know, what it takes to really get to where you need to be or where you want to be. I think the first and foremost for me is, if you've graduated in an agricultural degree and you find that, you know, employment isn't coming, you know, those Z83 forms, you fill them out by the hundreds every year, and you're just simply not going anywhere, I would reevaluate my position. You know, in the Eastern Cape, you've got a very nice village structure where each household from yesteryear was given the privilege and the ability to have, you know, a small garden or a small piece of land, you know, in the open fields, not necessarily title, but, you know, through PTO, which is proof to occupy, you know, through the traditional system. And what does it take for me to go and buy 100 or 200 seedlings of spinach? Who doesn't eat spinach in the village? Who doesn't eat cabbage in the village? Hell, who doesn't eat an egg? Who doesn't eat meat? So I think it's important that, you know, my colleagues in age now, with regards to youth, we really turn our heads with regards to, what can I do with the little I have or have access to? Now, I'm not talking about the individuals who are immensely under pressure because of household status. You know, I totally would understand, and I'll never be in a position to understand the severity of that matter. But what I do understand is, we all got an opportunity, all of us, in the sense to say, specifically for the Eastern Cape, there's a lot of youngsters who've turned to agriculture. Half a hectare of spinach, you know, 100 chickens of that are layers, you know, 200 broilers per system every 6 weeks. You know, he may not be achieving, from a volume perspective, commercial status, but if you sell that chicken for 150 Rand in Mthatha, that's 150 Rand you didn't have. How much did it cost to put it in? Could be another question with regards to the input cost. But we have to resort to what we all have access to, at least, again, Eastern Cape-wise, and that is land. We have to resort. Agriculture, for me, Mbali, in closing, is probably the only way we can unlock, one, the economic status of the province. And I'll just talk about Eastern Cape because the others I'm yet to learn. But the second thing is opportunity for young people. You know, yes, not everyone has got the status of wanting to stand on the side of the road and be a hawker selling a bunch of spinach. But guys, we're going to have to, wig or not, you know, high heel or not, you're going to have to be in a position of saying, how am I going to put bread on the table every day? And for me, land, or should I say agriculture, in this province of the Eastern Cape is a serious key to that. So I think, you know, and you can modify that. And I mean, you can look very pretty standing on the side of the road with an umbrella selling grapes. You know, so guys, lower your levels, in my opinion. Status will never bring money in. Never. Guys that are living above their means see their bottoms very quickly, if I can put it lightly, with regards to development and growth in the business. Don't look for status. Use what you have. Ask mom for a 5,000 Rand package just to start off, or gran for 1,000 Rand, you know, to start off with some spinach or something. But we can't carry on thinking that it's just going to come, you know, while we're sitting down. We have to move, Mbali, and that's my opinion in terms of this particular question.
Oh, Sinelizwi, I definitely share the same sentiments. I think you've said a mouthful and something that we can all definitely take home. And I think it's very important for a lot of graduates to have heard what you just said, because again, we're all about fast life. You're in Eastern Cape, I'm in Johannesburg, and I know how things are here in Johannesburg. We're all about fast life, getting the latest brands, apparel, gadgets, etc. And I definitely agree with you as an advocate for farming that agriculture is going to take a lot of us out of poverty. But thank you so much for your time. Happy, what are you doing now? Planting, right?
No, goodness, we're doing a bit of land prep. We're doing a bit of land prep just to see if we can get some sunflowers in, but also obviously just, farm maintenance and this particular hour with maize that's out and growing and ready for harvest, quite soon. A lot of people start to walk around on private property at night. So you just have to keep an eye out. So this is what we do until 10 o'clock, and then we sleep at 11.
Awesome. So when was your planting season? October, November, December?
Yeah. So our summer crops are November, our maize and our soya beans will come in, a little bit earlier, October, November. And then you've got your other grains that you can do in December, for example, the sunflower late or January. And then you've got dry beans that you can do as well in the December time. And then you've got guys that do, winter wheat, which you will then reap just before your summer season. So that's our grain cycle in the area. And it's important to try out new things as well. So I'm looking at seeing if cover crops for my soil health, because as a farmer, dealing with the hectares that we're dealing with, you always look to work with nature and not against it, because it can turn very ugly.
Absolutely. Sinelizwi, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate our conversation. I definitely learned a great deal from a farmer's element in terms of how I can maybe just start mentoring individuals. I certainly try to do so in many other platforms of mine, but I think, I've definitely taken notes and learned a great deal in what you've said tonight. So happy growing season. I wish you more and more rain in your area, and all the best with your farming enterprise. God bless.
Thanks, Mbali, and thank you for the opportunity, and looking forward to further engagements with you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Absolutely. Well, there you have it. That was Sinelizwi Fakade, who is the founder and chairperson of Ukana Farmer Development. He is based in the Eastern Cape in an area called Yugi, and he's a grain farmer. And our conversation was all about basically understanding his story, the crops and different commodities that he's farming, but most importantly around mentorship in the agricultural sector. And so if you missed this live, it will be live on Private Properties YouTube channel after this. Please engage, ask questions. I know I didn't give enough time for you to ask questions tonight, because we wanted to just get the most out of Sinelizwi today, because he is busy and out in the field as we speak. So thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to tomorrow's show with Zama at 7 p.m., which is the Private Property Farming Live podcast. And on the weekend, we have Chad with the Home Shopper Show on Saturday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Have a good week. Have a good weekend as well. And I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Take care.
Hi, I'm Cornita Bobs. I'm a BCom student at Stellenbosch University. I currently live in Valgevonden Estate and I absolutely love this area. Historically, Stellenbosch is known as a student town. It offers an incredibly peaceful lifestyle, and the people around town are always welcoming and friendly. Because it's a small town, there's an amazing community vibe with some really authentic coffee shops and restaurants. The trees along Victoria Street create a beautiful environment to be in, and it's really cool for students passing through campus. There's some excellent boys and girls schools in the area. Our town has such a rich history, but at the same time it's really modern, and you'll find some amazing art installations all around. The sunrises and sunsets are some of the best in the world. It's the most beautiful place to call home. I've lived here for the past 5 years, and it's been an unforgettable experience. And this is my neighborhood.